Trump and Putin will meet soon in Alaska to talk, I think, about global security and Ukraine too. This shows the war is not just between Russia and Ukraine, as a lot of media and the newspaper said and wrote in this year, but the United States is a main player in this war. Now, some in the United States want to stop the war, this war, but I think not because they truly believe in peace, but because it's no longer good for them to continue. I understand this approach, but European Union doesn't want to understand it. Europe is still following, for me, my opinion, the whole US plan and carrying most of the war's burden, even if European people don't want this war, because in Italy, for example, people don't want this war, because they are losing in trade, in energy, in tourism. I think, in my opinion, Europe should be stronger and should have autonomous and pragmatic approach. You, in my opinion, should propose every time we, as a movement, start asked for it. I think European Union has to propose a new peace conference like in like Helsinki 1975, with all the main countries at the table, main countries involved in this, to talk about Ukraine, yes, but also about global security, because I think this is the only way for Europe to have a real voice in the new world that is building, and to work really for the peace.
Why do you think it is that Brussels and the European Union is still so subservient to the United States deep state? They're not subservient to Trump necessarily as much, but when it comes to the financial interests in the United States, they are complete pawns. And you mentioned that. Why do you think that is?
Yes, I think it started from a long time. After the fall of Berlin Wall, many experts, many analysts said us that history was over and that the free market would fix everything. They believed that they had won the game of the 20th century, but this is not true, of course. It was an illusion, because also globalization was not the same for everyone. Even the US questioned globalization when new powers started to grow, and the world is changing fast. The world is changing fast, and we can see new powers started to grow. And I think European leaders still follow the old ways, because I think tied to US ideas of unilateral war, tied to big business interests, because we know that many of these leaders studied in the US, and they started to think like American politicians, and some of them worked for the US lobbies like BlackRock. We have a lot of example about this and it, and I think this makes it hard for Europe to act fully on its own interest, simply.
I guess the silencing of political dissent and the suppression of true democracy in Europe. You think this is happening at the hands of the United States and their financial interests as well? Whether we look in Romania or in Germany or wherever's next, we see Brussels stepping in and trying to stop people that are fighting for even a little bit of sovereignty.
The Romanian election, I think, shows the European double standards. I can see in the parliament how these double standards are used too often. European Union is quick to accuse 30 countries to interference every time, but it ignores when these interferences, this influence came from other European countries or even from the US. Honestly, I don't support the far right party that run in Romania. I don't share with them any idea about economy, about society. But I think we have to understand that there is an anti-establishment vote in Europe because I think the people don't believe in this leadership and don't believe in our leader. And I think that canceling vote you don't like is not real democracy and is not the right way to go on, simply. The example of Romania, we can see other example in other parts of the Europe, and maybe in the next future we will face with another other election that don't like that the European Union don't like.
Yeah, and it makes me think that you even mentioned that the Russia-Ukraine war and the sanctions have caused such a hardship on the European people, on the economy in particular. Why do you think it is that so many Europeans are still supporting Ukraine, still supporting the sanctions, and don't want an end to the war, and aren't willing to vote for these new parties that are trying to end the war, these alternative parties, if the situation is so bad?
Well, about sanction, mm, I think European people are against sanction at all. Honestly, I think about sanction, the history teach us that sanctions usually hurt normal people more than governments. And the sanctions on Russia are mainly a geopolitical choice than the others, because we have voted for 18 sanction packages against Russia, but nothing similar against Israel.
Mm,
Nevertheless, Israel is accused of worse actions, and for me, Israel is doing worse than Russia. So these sanctions are hurting especially European people, companies, and people. They hit us in energy costs. They hit us in export, in tourism. For example, Italian goods sold to Russia are blocked, and we have a lot of companies in the Northeast that specialized in export, or also tourism companies in the south of Italy specialized in tourism that are losing a lot of Russian tourists. And at the end, I think they damage our economy more than they change Russian politics and Russian policy.
hmm How do you think the United or the European Union should address its role in funding and arming this genocide in Gaza? And do you see any breakthrough in countries like France, the UK, who are recognizing Palestinian statehood, or do you think it's just political theater and it's not going to really make a difference in ending the genocide?
So about Palestine, so we can see also here a double standard of European Union, because we as Five-Star movement have many times asked for that European Union to act strongly on Gaza. No, I think we think that first European Union should stop the EU-Israel association agreement, and second, European Union should put an weapons embargo on Israel to stop sending weapons that fuel the violence and this genocide. Uh, some months ago, I went to with other member of European Parliament, Italian, and our other member of Italian Parliament too, and member of NGO to the Rafah borders,
Mm.
and we saw the Egyptian Red Cross warehouses full of food and other aid. And Israel doesn't let this enter Gaza. So this means Israel is using famine as a weapons of war. Like I remember the history, like in the 1941 during the siege of Leningrad. And for us, this is terrible, it's unacceptable. Still, Europe does nothing absolutely and calls Israel its greatest friend. Kaja Kallas said it. But for us, the European Union must stop this double standard and take real action about Gaza, because not only about Gaza, because Israel declared that they won't occupy all Palestinian territory, and European Union is silent.
Mhm. Do you think more countries will follow in the footsteps of Spain and Germany? Do you think we could see other countries take similar actions in the near future?
Oh, I hope, but now, sadly, I don't think Italian government is seems loyal more to the U.S. interest and Israeli interest than its own people. They act mainly for the U.S. interests, so I think Italy will continue to send army. Also, if even if Italian people is against genocide, because Italian people stand with Palestine, show their solidarity to Palestine during the march, a lot of march, a lot of demonstration. But I think Italian government will continue to send weapons to Israel.
Why do you think the alternative right wing parties in Europe are they claim that they're anti-establishment, and maybe they are anti-establishment when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, but still they're all Zionists, which is directly in line with the establishment position. They'll call for arms embargoes to Ukraine, but not to Israel. Why do you think it is that I'm thinking in particular of AfD in Germany, but there's others as well who have risen to some prominence on the backs of being anti-establishment, but they will not question Israel.
Yes, yes, the far right parties in the European Union shows clearly, in the European Parliament, sorry, shows clearly their strong support for Israel in every speech, in every action. Notably, the European Parliament has never passed a resolution to condemn the genocide or what is happening in Gaza, because this party, of far right party and Popular Party, have always refused to allow such a resolution to be presented or voted on. Moreover, I think in the European Parliament, the Zionist interests hold significant influence within the European Parliament too, and many politicians across different groups, not only from far right party, have met lobbyists, Zionist lobbyists in these months. So I think the combination of these political view and this interest uh, are creating a climate in the European Parliament where serious condemnation of Gaza situation is blocked, and it's not possible.
Do you think that the leadership of the EU should be held criminally responsible for their role in the genocide in Gaza and the atrocities in the West Bank?
Yes, because I think European leaders did nothing in these years, and also the political groups, they refused to talk about Gaza in the European Parliament. They refused to vote, just vote a resolution to condemn uh, what is happening in Gaza. And
Hmm.
this is terrible for me. I can't understand, because we voted 7 resolution about Georgian election, because European Parliament said that these elections are not good, they're not true, and etc. etc. But never we voted for a resolution to condemn Israel and what is happening in Gaza. It's
Hmm.
terrible, and you can understand double standards in uh, how they use double standard in European Parliament.
What do you think is driving the success behind the five-star movement um, in your country, in Europe right now? Because uh, when you look at a lot of the populist left-wing movements in Europe and in the UK, you have very little success. The only success you see are amongst the parties that will claim to be, populist left or sovereigntist, but they are anti-Russia. They want to continue the war against Russia. And when you look at China, they're not so good on China. They're just maybe good on Gaza. And the domestic politics are also atrocious with these parties. What is behind the success of the five-star movement in Italy in particular?
So yes, so we changed a lot from the beginning, of course, as a movement because now we are more party than movement. But I think we based our success on initially when we at the beginning using a political a post-ideological political no in at the beginning. For example, now in the European Party, in the European Parliament, we don't win anyway because we are in opposition. We sit in opposition, but we, for example, we fight for things, important things for us, like peace and work to build an Europe based on the cooperation, on and dialogue, and not on the war ideology. And I think we focus on what really helps people and not just politics. So because I think, for example, we voted for the motion of no confidence against von der Leyen, even if it was presented by some right maps.
Mm-hmm.
We did it because we believed it was the right things for the European people and for the Italian people at this moment. I think people like it because we want real result for the people. We believe this is the truly left and pragmatic position. So when we were government, we signed the Silk Road initiative, for example, because for us it was an important thing for Italian companies, for Italian people, for example. And I
And
think people trust us.
yes, yes. It's extremely pragmatic and it just makes sense, to focus on the issues that matter and not get wrapped up in the theater of it all. Uh, I want to ask you one thing I've seen in a lot of Western political movements on the left is this obsession with cultural issues, getting caught up, especially in the debates around gender and LGBT issues. How does the five-star movement navigate this? Is this a big issue for you guys, or do you kind of reject participating in this stuff?
So no, we don't reject it. We are against the liberal economic values, for example, about neoliberalism economy that are against poverty and poor, etc., etc. But about civil rights, we think that civil rights and social rights are important together. We have to support together social right and civil right together, and not only civil right, but not only social right. So we don't reject the civil rights, of course, but we support civil right and social right together because for us it's important to improve the life of the people more than than other political ideologies and etc., etc.
Well, it's good that there's a focus on all fronts because we need that right now, especially with all the crises we have in the Middle East, in Russia, and who knows what they are planning next. The warmongers in DC and Brussels, they never stop. So Danilo, thank you so much for joining me here today. Where should people follow along with your work if they want to stay up to date with what you and the Five Star Movement are doing in the European Parliament? I'm sure there's ways that Italians and Europeans can get involved.
Yeah, surely on we have all channels, of course, on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on X too.
Danilo, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I thank you for standing up for Gaza and peace between Ukraine, Russia, the United States. And I look forward to continuing to watch what you and your party continue to build in Europe in the future.
Thank you too for the invitation and see you soon. I hope to see you.